Alice Talitha, BBC News, outside Bor in South Sudan.
It's 17 minutes past 7. Let's have a look at our headlines here on BBC News. David Cameron and Ed Miliband both state their commitment to the so-called triple lock on state pensions, which ensures they'll continue to rise by at least 2.5%. Dozens of flood warnings are still in place across the country as a fresh wave of heavy weather rolls over Britain from the Atlantic. Bomb attacks leave at least 19 people dead in the Iraqi capital Baghdad as the government attempts to force militants from the key city of Fallujah. One of the UK's most wanted criminals, thought to be on the run in Spain, has been arrested in Bolton. Greater Manchester Police say Lee Willis was arrested on New Year's Day. The 30-year-old from Ashton-under-Lyne had admitted possessing cocaine and cannabis in March last year, but he went on the run before he was due to be sentenced in June. He's also due to appear in court later this month, accused of dealing a Class A drug. Now, Ed Miliband has vowed to end what he calls Britain's chronic dependency on cheap foreign labour if he wins the next election. The Labour leader wants to close a legal loophole which he says exploits workers from abroad. Mr Miliband said low-skilled immigration was making the cost of living crisis worse.
Look, I think Britain's got a choice to make. We've got to remain an open and outward-looking country. But when people are coming here, we can't allow it to happen in a way that undercuts wages and conditions. I think that's one of the issues that people have deep concerns about when it comes to immigration. People are saying, look, we welcome people who want to make a contribution, but it can't be done in such a way that it undermines and undercuts the wages of people already here. I think that is a very important principle that people from across society, including business, will want to support.
The thoughts there of Ed Milliband. Well, joining me now is Professor Christian Dustmann, who is Professor of Economics at University College London, where he's also Director of the Centre for Research and Analysis of Migration. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Now, some people won't be familiar with what it is that Ed Milliband is talking about here, this legal loophole for agency workers. Just talk us through the basic principle.
Yes, so in October 2011, the Agency Worker Regulation came into effect in European countries, which actually is, the idea was to support and to protect agency workers by giving them, when they have worked for more than 12 weeks in the same company, the same rights and in particular the same pay than the worker for whom they are a substitute. Now, there was an exemption to that rule, and that was on request of the Swedish government. It is called the Swedish derogation. So on a Swedish derogation contract, the agency can offer the worker a permanent contract, but at the same time, the worker will forgo his right of equal pay. So this is particularly taken advantage of in particular industries, like for instance the food industry, and that was considered as a loophole, and Ed Miliband wanted to or wants to close this particular loophole.
He says basically it means that companies can get around paying the minimum wage, and says that that is essentially making the cost of living crisis worse because it drives down wages. It means workers who were looking for the minimum wage can't get it and so on, and that they're undercut by workers from abroad. Is he right if we look at the economics of this? Well,
I mean, there are always two sides to every argument, in particular to this one. Now, the particular industries Ed Miliband has been referring to, like for instance the agricultural industry, are industries which really depend on being able to employ workers who are willing to work for low wages. Now, we always have to kind of consider what happens if those industries do not have access to workers on low wages anymore, and that could be that the job goes to companies which are in countries where wages are lower. So for instance, the supermarket chain may want to buy the blueberries directly from the Polish company rather than from the British producer. So of course these are very small fractions of industries Ed Miliband is referring to, but we have to be very careful when we look at this in more detail.
Because certainly the CBI, who represent the employers essentially, saying that the flexibility inherent in this system has actually saved jobs, they say, and kept the economy going.
That's what they say, yes.
Just to explain, it's
yes.
exactly this point that there are two sides. They would presumably say if you fiddle around with this and bring in the minimum wage, then the whole industry dies.
Yes, so of course, I mean, there are always industries which are just surviving because they are able to operate on very low labor cost. It is a larger question whether we want to keep these industries or whether we want to use other means to make these industries more productive. For instance, by employing more skilled workers, by combining more skilled workers with better production technologies. That will not always be possible for all of those industries. And in some cases, difficult decisions will have to be made when we are willing to impose particular wage floors to those industries.
Food for thought, certainly in the run-up to the election, because this is likely to be an issue. Professor Christian Dustmann, thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome.
3 people have been arrested after an unknown substance was found at a house in Hull. Nearby properties have been